Hello, welcome to our 12th video. Today we're going to be talking about the distributive property, but specifically with these integer coefficients. So just a reminder to you guys what the distributive property is. What we're saying here is that we are taking this number, variable, whatever it is, sitting in front of a set of parentheses. Just a reminder, this guy is called the coefficient. This is called a coefficient, and it's sitting in front of something that's happening inside of parentheses. Just a reminder, guys, that this is really a multiplication sign. There's this invisible multiplication sign in there. So what we're going to do with the distributive property, whenever we have a coefficient sitting in front of or being multiplied into some parentheses, we are going to distribute it in. We're going to distribute that x to our a, and then also our x to our b as well, that second term inside of the expression. In other words, x times this parentheses a plus b is equal to, or the same thing as, a times x plus b times x. All we're doing is we're multiplying in that coefficient to both terms inside our parentheses. Let's go ahead and do an example. Please make sure that this is written in your notes. Okay, so we have an expression here. Let's go -4, open parentheses, -6u minus 3y plus 5. Notice how there are 3 terms inside of our parentheses, and notice how also we have 2 different variables. They are not like terms. We have a u and a y. Just something to keep in mind. Our coefficient is -4 sitting out in front. So let's go ahead and start distributing it in. Let's distribute this -4 into our first term of -6u. Now, usually when I'm writing out things using the distributive property, I really like to take this additional step and write everything out. Now, I know most of you guys probably know that -4 times -6u is positive 24u, but it's really easy to get lost in the sauce. So that's why I'm going to write out every step here. Also want to point out that I'm using parentheses around both our coefficient and the term that I'm multiplying it by. I'm going to keep that consistent for all of these. Okay? Now I'm going to bring down that minus sign, and then I'm going to multiply in the coefficient into our second term. Have that coefficient of -4 times that 3y. Now we're going to do the same thing for our last term. I'm going to bring down this addition sign, and then I'm going to multiply in this coefficient into our third one. -4 times that positive 5. Okay, now thinking about our PEMDAS, we have no parenthesis operations any longer. We couldn't do that up top, but now we distributed. There's no operation sitting inside of any of our parentheses. Also don't have any exponents, so let's just go ahead and get started with our multiplication. I'm going to work left to right. I could start there, I could start there. Doesn't matter as long as we're keeping our signs consistent, but I'm just going to start right over here. -4 times -6u is a positive 24u. Now I'm going to bring down that sign that's not in our parentheses. I'm just going to bring it down just to keep things consistent and make sure we don't get confused. But I am going to go ahead and do this multiplication. -4 times positive 3y is a -12y. Again, bringing down that operation sign, and I'm going to do the multiplication. -4 times positive 5 is a -20. Now I'm going to double check that there are no like terms that I can combine, and I see that there's not because I have a u and a y and a term without variable. Nothing can be combined, and I'm just going to simplify it to the best of my ability here. I'm going to go ahead and simplify. There's nothing that I can simplify here, so I'm just going to keep this 24u. Now here, I see that I can just reduce this and make it a single operation whenever we're subtracting. negative, I know that becomes a positive 12y. And same thing over here. I just want to write one single operation. So I have adding a negative, which we know is the same thing as subtraction, minus 20. So I know that negative 4 times, open parentheses, negative 6u minus 3y plus 5 is equal to, or the same thing as, 24u plus 12y minus 20. Okay, go ahead and make sure that's in your notebook, and let's do one more example. Okay, this time we're going to have negative 6 times negative 4y to the third power minus 4, oops, got excited, plus 4b squared. Okay, same thing as always. I'm just going to go ahead and start out by distributing this coefficient in. Let's go ahead and multiply it into our first term. Same thing, I'm going to write out my coefficient as well as the term, and then I'm going to bring down that sign, and I'm going to go ahead and distribute that coefficient into our second term. Again, bringing down that sign, the addition in this case, going to distribute our coefficient into our third term. Okay, sorry, got a little off the page. Awesome. Again, we have no parentheses. We do have exponents here. We do have some exponents, but I don't know what y is equal to. I don't know what z is equal to, so there's no expanding of the variables or expanding of these results to try and get an answer, so I'm just going to leave it as is. So next up, I'm going to go ahead and just multiply. Reminder, this negative 6, we are multiplying it in to the y to the third, but we're just multiplying the coefficients. Again, this is still a coefficient, this negative 4. So we're multiplying the two coefficients together, and we're going to leave that y to the third. Negative 6 times negative 4 is a positive 24 y to the third. I'm going to go ahead and bring down that subtraction sign, move on to our next multiplication of negative 6 times positive 4 is a negative 24. Bringing down that addition sign, we're going to go ahead, write that out. Negative 6 times 4v squared. We're going to treat this exactly the same way as we did the first time. Negative 6 times positive 4 is negative 24v squared. Okay, we did all our multiplication. We don't have any division. We do have some addition and subtraction that we do need to clean up. I also see that there's no like terms because this one has a y, this one has no variables, and this guy has a z. No like terms. So let's just go ahead, clean this up a little, and we will be done. We have 24y to the third. Now again, because I have minus and negative, I know that it'll be a positive. We are now adding 24. And then our final term, adding a negative, is the same thing as subtracting minus 24 to the second. So we know that our original expression is the same thing as 24y to the third plus 24 minus 24 to the second. Make sure this is in your notebook. I hope you guys have a great night.